It's been a really intense and interesting year for the Data Transparency Lab and the community that is forming around. And I think, at least for me, Krishna, and the people of the committee that selected the awards, there were two specific months, April and May, that were particularly busy. So the timeline was pretty packed with work. We started on the 1st of April, when the budget showed up in some bank account for giving away the grants. We made sure that the money was first in. Whoever deals with budgets knows that if you don't really see the money, it's not actually there. So we started 1st of April. Krishna kindly accepted the invitation to co-chair the committee with me. And then we worked very intensely to bring together a committee of 15 experts to select the awards. And then we have to do several things, create the review form, give instructions to the committee members, prepare the call for proposals that was put online on the web. And then Blanca and Rafa did the amazing work of setting up all the infrastructure, the website for the submission sites, the advertising material. Who else? Hamed helped us here with informing the people, primarily the networking community, through newsletters. We did a little bit of advertising on the event. We didn't have a lot of time, so we tweeted, we sent emails to people, informed a couple of lists. And then on the 15th of May, or the 15th of April, that was just 2 weeks after we got the go-ahead, we opened the submission site. Okay. And the site remained open for a month until the 15th of May, at which point, in the last couple of days, we were really excited and surprised with the number of submissions that we were seeing. At some point, we had around, 15 proposals submitted, and then suddenly the counter started going up. It stopped at 62. At some point, we were getting a little bit terrified because the initial committee was not constructed to handle this workload, right? So we ended up, we had these 15 people. I would like to thank each and everyone individually, but we don't have enough time. Their names are there. Just by glancing at the committee, you will realize that most of them are coming from the measurements and systems community. But we also had people from privacy. We wanted to bring also some people from HCI, from artificial intelligence, people with some background on economics as well. So we try to make it as interdisciplinary as possible. And then what happened is that in the 10 days after the 15th of May, we managed to do 202 reviews. That was double the load that I originally we asked from the committee members. And really big thanks to everyone that worked hard and late and did high quality work to help us select the proposals. So we did a total of 202 reviews. We had an online discussion phase to make sure that the scores for different proposals were aligned, and then any differences of opinion were kind of smoothed out. And then we brought a bunch of these proposals to a long telephone call on the 29th of May, where we actually went into the business of ranking the different proposals in terms of merit. And at this point, I just want to give you an idea of what the review form looked like. There were different fields. Some were numerical, where you just needed to rank the overall quality of the proposal, the potential for impact, the quality of the applicant, and the usual stuff that happens in these situations. Beyond the details that you can see here, I would like to just convey the rationale behind the whole review process. So our first priority was that we wanted to fund proposals that were very aligned with the main theme of the Data Transparency Lab. We wanted to fund proposals that would be in one of the key topics, identifying, tracking, trying to reverse engineer target advertising, stuff like that. So that was the first priority. The second thing that counted towards the proposal receiving the grant was to be convincing that it will produce some workable code in the near future, in the next 6 or 12 months. And the reason for this was that I think from the beginning, what is making this community a little bit different than other communities that care about privacy and transparency is that we have this strong focus on building software, easy-to-use software that can be used by simple users and not just researchers, right? So we paid particular attention to this. And if this was also checked, then the rest of the score had to do with how credible the applicant is. You know, have they done this before? Have they worked in the area and stuff like that? So this was creating the overall score. And at this point, I will pass it to Krishna to tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Nikos. So one of the challenges that we actually had was there were many more proposals than we could actually fund. So we had a rough idea that that there would be funding for 6 to 7 proposals. And so we decided to shortlist about 13, which is almost like double the number of potential proposals that could be funded. Now, when we decided to actually categorize or classify these proposals into 3 categories, like tools, platform, and research. In a couple of slides, you'll understand why we're doing this, but we had sort of applied a rough rule of thumb that if the proposal didn't promise any software, but was primarily proposing to investigate some research ideas, we actually put them under the category of research. And if proposals that were actually promising to deliver some software that individual users can use to get some information about how some online providers are actually using their data, those were the proposals that we put under tools. All the remaining sort of a thing are proposals we put under the category of platform. Now, I'll admit right away that this is not like a precise definition, and it is not always the case that even Nikos and I or the other program committee members agreed with this classification. In the end, whenever there was too many disputes, I guess we exercised our privilege as the grant co-chairs to decide the final categorization. And so once we did this categorization of these proposals, we ranked them according to merit within each category. To give you a quick idea of the sort of tools or platforms or research, so for instance, under the tools category, we had proposals that were promising to, that were solving some HCI issues in targeted advertising, like something that would tell end users that DoubleClick knows that you're a Euro traveler. And then we also had proposals like those that would enable end users to detect what sort of PII is being leaked when they're using mobile phones and so on. And similarly, there was a proposal that was telling users how valuable they might be to Facebook and so on. So again, I'm skipping over them because you're going to actually hear the detailed talks and poster presentations later. And under the category of platforms, we had proposals that were going to audit several websites about the type of information they were gathering about users. In fact, there was a proposal that was auditing more than 1 million websites. And similarly, we had a proposal that was trying to solve this interesting paradox of in order to use a transparency tool, sometimes you have to give information to the transparency tool itself. And so there was an interesting proposal about that as well. And finally, under the research category, we had some, again, fascinating proposals. One was promising to reverse engineer the surge pricing of Uber. And there were also proposals to make systems forget. That is, if you have a system, recommendation system of sorts, and you have to forget the data that the system has gathered long in the past. Again, this is just to give you a feel for what the different categories are. So what we did at the end was actually come up with a set of recommendations to the board. So the program committee took the task of categorizing the proposals and ranking the proposals in each category. So however, in terms of the number of proposals that are funded, that is determined by the DTL board, and the board agreed to respect the ranking within each category. That means there was no proposal that was funded that was ranked by the program committee to be lower than something else within a particular category. So what we recommended to the board was to fund at least 5 tools and 1 platform. And if there was additional funding available, we gave them different options to pick another tool or a platform or a research proposal. So in the end, the board decided to fund the 5 tools and 1 platform. And additionally, they also offered travel grants to all the other 7 proposals. And furthermore, luckily for us, they were generous enough to actually fund an additional 7 highest ranked proposals independently of their category. And so these are the talks that you're going to hear 6 research talks, and then you're going to have like 14 poster presentations from the people who got these travel grants. And so we just want to give a quick heads up for the next year. Nikos has been planning on some ideas about what they're going to do for the next year.
Thank you, Krishna. So we're going to run the award program again in 2016, so stay tuned. And as Pablo already mentioned, we're going to add to this event, to the DTL conference, a one-day academic workshop. So this will run next year for the first time. It will be collocated with this event. It will be a one-day event, right? And it will be purely academic. So there will be a call for research papers to be submitted. We foresee accepting somewhere between 12 to 14 papers to fill up an entire day. For now, we have a tentative location, which is New York, and 2 possible weeks that this event will run together with DTL, and it would either be the week of the 14th of November or the 28th of November. So last word, this will be called the Data Transparency Workshop. What we're trying to do is not repeat another privacy workshop, right? We are trying to bring together a number of different communities that I think have an identity of their own around transparency. This would be people from measurements and systems, people from privacy, the HCI community, and people from economics and machine learning, all with the main objective of working with real-world problems and creating the science for reverse engineering and making sense of what happens in reality on the web. So stay tuned. There will be more information on this one.